Every
North
call
Ogden.
starts the same. A voice on the radio, a quiet street, a heartbeat behind the badge. But what happens next is never the same. In Utah, a brother's visit turns into gunfire and firelight. In Milwaukee, a stolen car becomes a shootout inside a construction zone. In Illinois, a mental health call ends in seconds of chaos. Modesto officers face a gun at arm's length. In Texas, cops run into flames to save 2 boys. And in Florida, a suspect laughs as he steals their patrol car. 6 real incidents, 1 truth. Danger doesn't wait. These are the moments caught by the camera that never blink. Evening settles slowly over North Ogden, the Wasatch Range still catching the last blush of Sunday. In one of the tidy brick houses on Pleasant View Drive, Scott Roberts and his wife Jody sit down to dinner. Outside, a van pulls into their driveway, engine ticking after a long trip. The man who steps out has driven nearly 700 miles from Long Beach, California, a brother coming home, at least by blood. His name is Jeffrey Roberts, 66 years old, gray-haired, deliberate in his movements. He walks up the path, carrying nothing more threatening than the weight of silence. When he presses the doorbell, the soft chime echoes through the house. Inside, chairs scrape the floor. Scott pushes back from the table. The front camera records the moment in perfect suburban stillness. A man framed by a porch light, hands buried in his jacket pockets, waiting. Scott opens the door halfway, the conversation beginning the way family talks often do, an uneasy mixture of curiosity and history. "Jeff, what are you doing here?" Jeffrey asks for another relative, voice calm, almost rehearsed. Scott answers, puzzled, beginning to step closer. Then movement breaks the rhythm. Jeffrey's right hand slips inside his jacket, draws a handgun, and the porch explodes in light. The sound is flat and mechanical. The camera jolts with each flash. Scott collapses instantly, the door swinging inward. For a second, the view is empty except for drifting smoke. Then Jeffrey steps across the threshold, disappearing inside the home. Another shot rings out. Jody screams. The audio peaks and cuts. Across the street, a neighbor sitting on his porch jerks upright. He thinks he heard fireworks, then doubts himself. Within half a minute, he dials 911, voice shaking, telling the dispatcher, "I think I heard gunshots. I'm not sure." Inside the house, chaos blooms behind drawn curtains, overturned chairs, a phone knocked to the floor, a woman crawling toward the kitchen, trying to breathe past the ringing in her ears. The doorbell camera, still rolling, shows only the empty porch and the darkening street beyond. No shouts follow, only the faint hum of spring insects and, faintly, a dog barking 2 houses down. In less than 60 seconds, an ordinary dinner has dissolved into tragedy. The suspect's van sits quietly in the drive, headlights off, engine cooling. The front light flickers once, catching the edge of Jeffrey's shadow as he moves inside. Whatever reason brought him here tonight is already lost to the gunfire echoing through the walls. The evening calm of North Ogden has been shattered, and no one yet knows it. The Ring camera triggers again at 7:13 p.m. Outside the Roberts home, dusk has deepened into blue. The front door opens, and Jeffrey Roberts steps out, calm, expression unreadable. He walks off-screen for several seconds, the faint sound of gravel under his shoes trailing behind him. When he returns, he carries two things clearly visible in the lens: a large, dark duffel bag hanging from his left hand and a 12-gauge shotgun held low in his right. His jacket is open now, his movements deliberate but not rushed. The porch light catches the metal barrel each time he turns. Inside the house, something is already burning. Thin smoke slides through the doorway and curls upward into the cool air. He disappears inside again. Moments later, the camera reactivates, showing only flickering light from the entryway and the rapid flash of a fire alarm. A shrill tone pierces the microphone, drowning nearly every other sound. For a few seconds, Jeffrey reemerges, the shotgun still in his grasp, pacing from the doorway to the edge of the steps and back. His phone is pressed to his ear. The conversation is disjointed. Fragments cut by the alarm. My turtles. My bank account. He seems distracted, talking over the noise, stepping in and out of frame as orange reflection builds behind him. Each time he moves, smoke thickens around the doorframe, drifting sideways across the lens. The neighborhood remains eerily quiet. No shouting, no sirens, yet only the constant mechanical scream of alarms echoing off nearby houses. Across the street, porch lights blink on as neighbors, still unsure what they've heard, peek through blinds. The air glows faintly from the fire, beginning to take hold inside. Jeffrey glances toward the street once, then turns back into the house, vanishing into the smoke. For nearly 4 minutes, the camera captures nothing but movement in light and shadow, brief silhouettes crossing the doorway. At 7:20 p.m., the first patrol units swing onto Pleasant View Drive, tires crunching gravel, sirens fading to low whoops as they cut their lights. The officers see smoke before they see the suspect. The house is an inferno. Heat ripples through the air, distorting shapes, turning the night into a wavering mirage of red and gold. They take positions behind their cruisers, weapons drawn but vision blurred by haze. Then movement, a figure in the doorway, shotgun raised, framed by fire. The first blast comes like thunder. Pellets spray the street, slamming into mailboxes and shattering glass. Officers duck, shouting coordinates into radios. One crouches behind a metal mailbox. It rings with impacts, holes appearing like punctuation marks in steel. They answer with measured return fire, rounds sparking against the driveway stones. Neighbors watching from windows see only flashes, think the fire itself is exploding. The suspect steps forward, firing again, each shot driving him closer to the street until a burst of muzzle flashes from the cruisers, stops him mid-stride. He falters, stumbles, and collapses near the curb, the shotgun sliding from his grasp. Smoke swallows him. For several seconds, no one moves. Then the officers advance, two covering, one checking for movement. Suspect down, a voice calls out, flat and certain. Behind them, ammunition inside the house begins to cook off, crackling like fireworks. Firefighters, held back until the gunfire stops, surge forward, dragging hoses toward the doorway. The blast of water sends clouds of steam across the yard. Through the noise comes another sound, a woman's voice, faint, pleading, "Help me, please." Two firefighters and an officer move toward the side entrance, pushing through smoke until they find Jody Roberts lying near a hallway wall. She's bleeding but conscious. They carry her out on a stretcher, past the motionless figure in the street, past the burning shell of her home. Paramedics rush her toward an ambulance, while police begin roping off the area with yellow tape that gleams in the flashing lights. The fire takes nearly 20 minutes to control. By then, the structure is gutted, roof collapsed, water pooling around blackened beams. Reporters will later describe it as total loss. When dawn breaks, investigators photograph bullet holes stitched across a cruiser door, the melted siding of a neighbor's garage, the metal mailbox that saved a life. On the curb lies a duffel bag heavy with untouched magazines, evidence of intent far beyond impulse. The suspect's van still holds road flares, ammunition, and a handwritten note, fragmented thoughts about money, pets, and unfinished business. Officers exchange quiet words, none able to explain what could turn family into enemy. The morning air smells of smoke and wet ash. In the distance, mountains rise clean and indifferent against a pale sky. What began as a brother's visit has ended in gunfire, flame, and silence. A tragedy recorded frame by an unblinking doorbell camera, leaving behind only questions that no recording can answer.
A white Chevy truck. Get on the ground! Get on the ground!
Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the 20th of June 2024. It's a little after 2:20 p.m. when Milwaukee police officers initiate a felony traffic stop at North 17th Street and West Vliet Street. The vehicle they've been tracking is wanted in connection with 2 armed carjackings earlier in the day. The first occurred in the 500 block of North Jefferson Street. The second, an attempted armed robbery in the 500 block of North Broadway. Officers identify the suspect vehicle through witness reports and city surveillance feeds. A pursuit begins across several city blocks. Bodycam footage shows sirens flashing as the chase moves onto Interstate 43, where construction barriers narrow the lanes. The suspect vehicle veers into a closed construction zone near West Vienna Avenue, boxed in by a cement truck and heavy machinery. Construction workers scatter, seeking cover behind equipment. The stolen car, packed with 6 occupants, lurches to a halt in a cloud of dust. Officers exit their squad cars, weapons drawn, shouting commands. Milwaukee police, turn off the engine, hands up, don't move. The 10 seconds stretch long. Inside the car, voices rise, shouting, movement, panic. Then the driver makes a decision that changes everything. The suspect driver, later identified as one 7-year-old Calvion Jeans, suddenly throws the vehicle into reverse. Tires squeal against the asphalt as the car slams into a marked police squad behind it. Officers yell, "Stop the car! Stop the car now!" Instead, the vehicle lunges forward, hitting a barricade, then reverses again, engine revving, smoke rising from the tires. Behind the car, one officer is trapped in the vehicle's path. At that instant, another officer fires multiple rounds into the vehicle to stop the threat. The gunfire lasts barely 2 seconds sharp, echoing cracks swallowed by freeway noise. Inside the car, chaos erupts. 2 occupants are struck by bullets. The car jerks to a stop, glass shattered, airbags deployed. Officers rush in, pulling open doors, shouting commands. Hands up, get out of the car, don't move, stay where you are. One by one, the 6 occupants are removed from the vehicle and handcuffed. The driver, Calvion Jeans, is bleeding from his arm and jaw. The front passenger, One 8-year-old Ashley Patterson is gravely wounded, hit in the head and back. Paramedics are called immediately. As officers secure the scene, they recover a firearm inside the vehicle, confirming suspicions that the car was not only stolen, but armed and dangerous. As night falls over Milwaukee, the flashing lights fade from the interstate. The last of the squad cars pull away, leaving behind only the hum of freeway traffic and the faint outline of yellow tape flapping in the wind. Investigators from multiple agencies, including the Milwaukee Police Department's Internal Affairs Division and the Wisconsin Department of Justice, remain on site into the early morning hours. Each shell casing is measured, photographed, and marked. Drone footage captures an overhead view of the tire ruts and the scattered debris that still litter the construction lane. The wrecked stolen vehicle, now riddled with bullet holes, is lifted onto a flatbed tow truck and removed as evidence. Nearby, a group of construction workers who had witnessed the entire event unfold quietly recount what they saw to detectives. One describes diving behind a cement barrier when the gunfire started. Another says he saw the vehicle reversing and heard officers shouting before the shots rang out. The emotional weight of the scene lingers long after the evidence is packed away. By dawn, local news crews arrive, broadcasting live from the blocked-off section of I-43 near West Vienna Avenue. The headline scrolls across screens citywide. Officer involved shooting leaves, 2 injured, 1 pregnant, teen critical. Throughout the day, the Milwaukee Police Department releases preliminary statements confirming that 6 individuals were in the stolen car, that a firearm was recovered, and that no officers or bystanders were physically injured during the confrontation. This is a tragic situation with multiple young lives impacted. The department's priority is transparency, accountability, and a full review of all actions taken. Meanwhile, prosecutors begin assembling case files against the surviving suspects. Court documents later reveal the extent of their alleged involvement in multiple armed robberies, including surveillance footage linking them to earlier carjackings that same morning. One 8-year-old Samira Dean, one 7-year-old Tyrone Rogers, and one 7-year-old Calvion Jeans are formally charged, alongside one 8-year-old Ashley Patterson, who remains hospitalized in critical condition. Combined, they face 20 criminal counts ranging from armed robbery and carjacking to fleeing law enforcement and possession of stolen property. The 2 youngest teens, a 6-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl, remain under review by juvenile prosecutors. Community members gather near the scene days later, leaving flowers along the guardrail, a quiet acknowledgement of the tragedy and its consequences. Local activists call for patience as the investigations unfold, while others urge accountability and greater intervention for at-risk youth caught in cycles of crime and violence. In a follow-up press briefing, the Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office confirms that the officer who discharged his weapon remains on administrative duty, as is standard in all officer-involved shootings. Bodycam footage, dashcam video, and third-party surveillance are now under independent review. Weeks later, investigators release a timeline summarizing the events of that afternoon: the pursuit, the reversal, the officer's positioning behind the vehicle, and the moment when a split-second decision determined the outcome. In the end, what began as a felony stop tied to a string of carjackings ended in heartbreak. 2 teens critically wounded, a young life lost before birth, and a department facing another test of transparency. On the highway where it happened, traffic flows again, erasing all visible signs of that day. But for those who witnessed it, for the families involved, and for the officers who stood only feet away when it all unfolded. The echoes of that June afternoon will never fully fade. Beaumont, Texas, Tuesday, the 10th of September 2024. It's 1:49 a.m. The streets of Vidor, a small Texas town east of Beaumont, lie quiet under a thick, humid night. Inside the Vidor Police Department Dispatch Center, a sudden call breaks the stillness. The dispatcher's tone is sharp, urgent. Structure fire, possible children trapped inside. 900 block of Pin Oak Drive. Multiple officers are immediately dispatched. Their cruisers cut through the darkness, red and blue lights flickering across quiet suburban homes. Over the radio, a trembling voice is heard, the mother who made the 911 call. My kids are still inside the front room. Please hurry." The clock ticks. Seconds feel like minutes. Officer Stevenson is the first to arrive on scene. As he turns onto Pin Oak, his headlights catch the orange glow of flames already clawing up the side of a one-story home. The air vibrates with the roar of fire. Smoke spills into the sky, thick and black. Stevenson jumps out of his cruiser, grabs his flashlight, and runs toward the house. The structure is fully engulfed, flames leaping through broken windows. A woman stands barefoot in the yard, her face streaked with soot and tears. She's screaming incoherently, pointing toward the house. "They're inside. My babies are in the front room." Stevenson doesn't hesitate. He covers his mouth and sprints toward the burning structure. The front door is impassable heat, radiates like an oven blast. He circles to the side, spotting a window air conditioning unit near the front corner, the room the mother described. Flames pulse behind the glass, faint outlines of curtains already curling upward. Over his shoulder, the officer shouts, "Which room? Which room are they in?" "Right there. That one, the front room." Stevenson braces himself against the siding and begins pushing on the metal air conditioner. The heat sears his arms through the uniform fabric. He yells over the radio, "Dispatch, I need fire and M's here." Now, structure's fully involved, attempting rescue. He pushes again. The A divided by C unit groans, but doesn't budge. He grabs the side of it and pulls hard. Inside, the muffled sound of coughing, a child's faint voice. He redoubles his effort, straining with both hands. The metal bends, and finally, with a sharp crack, the A divided by C unit snaps free, crashing to the ground. Thick smoke pours out of the opening. Stevenson climbs onto the sill, his flashlight beam cutting through the dense smoke. "Kids, call out to me," he shouts. A faint reply comes from the darkness. Two voices, one older, one smaller. "Help, we can't see." The officer's heart pounds. He can't see them through the haze. He shouts again, his voice hoarse. "Keep talking to me. I'm coming for you." He reaches inside, feeling blindly through the hot, smoke-filled air. The heat burns his hands through his gloves. That's when Officer Moss arrives on scene. He runs to assist, grabbing Stevenson's belt to anchor him as the officer leans farther into the window. "I got one," Stevenson yells. His hand finds the arm of a small child, limp but breathing. He pulls back with all his strength, dragging the child toward the window. Moss reaches in to help lift the boy clear. Together, They lower the first child, a 7-year-old, onto the grass, where the mother collapses beside him. He's out! He's out! But Stevenson doesn't stop. He turns back toward the window, smoke now thick and rolling outward in choking waves. He hears coughing again, weaker this time. "I've got another one." He plunges his arm back through the opening. The flames have crept across the ceiling now, the sound like a train roaring overhead. He feels fabric then, a small shoulder. The child is heavier, the 9-year-old sibling struggling for breath. Moss braces the window frame as Stevenson pulls. The two officers strain together, finally lifting the second child out into the cool night air. They set the child next to the first and shout for medics. Seconds later, firefighters and paramedics arrive, lights flashing across the smoke-choked yard. As crews rush to contain the blaze, medics immediately begin treatment checking, pulses, providing oxygen, and preparing the children for transport. The mother kneels between them, clutching their hands, sobbing in relief. Both children are coughing but alive. A firefighter turns towards Stevenson. "You pulled them out just in time." That room's flashing over. Stevenson looks back. Within a minute, the very room they were just in erupts in flame, the window belching orange fire. If he'd waited even seconds longer, the outcome would have been very different. The fire burns for nearly 40 minutes before it's declared under control. Investigators later determine that an electrical fault in the living room likely caused the blaze. But for the Vidor Police Department, the focus is not on property, it's on the lives saved. Both children are transported by Acadian Ambulance Service to Christus Street, Elizabeth ER in Beaumont. Doctors confirm they're being treated for smoke inhalation, but both are expected to recover fully. Word spreads quickly across the county. By sunrise, news outlets are reporting the story. Officers save 2 children from burning home. Video from the scene shows the charred remains of the structure, the window, where Stevenson tore out the A divided by C unit, now blackened and twisted. The small metal frame lies in the yard, a reminder of how close tragedy came. At a morning press conference, Chief of Police Rod Carroll praises the officers involved. Officer Stevenson and Officer Moss acted without hesitation. Their bravery under life-threatening conditions saved the lives of 2 young children. We couldn't be prouder. In the following days, both officers received commendations for valor. Stevenson, speaking briefly to reporters, downplays his actions. "We just did what anyone would do. Those kids needed help. That's all that mattered." Fire investigators later confirm what the officers already knew, that the front room reached flashover moments after the rescue. Had they arrived even 1 minute later, both children likely would have perished. Neighbors recall waking to the sirens and seeing officers crawling through smoke. One witness tells local news, "That house was burning so bad, I didn't think anyone could go near it. Those cops, they didn't wait for firemen. They just went in." The story spreads beyond Vidor, shared across Texas and national police networks as an example of courage under fire. At the hospital, the children recover quickly. Doctors release them within 48 hours, their lungs clear and spirits high. When asked if they remember the rescue, the older child nods softly. He said, "Keep talking to me." The 9-year-old recalls. "And then he pulled me out." Weeks later, the Vidor City Council honors both officers with life-saving awards, commending their decisive action in the face of danger. The ceremony is brief but emotional. The rescued family present, tears in their eyes. For Stevenson and Moss, it's a moment that reminds them why they joined the force, not for arrests or citations, but to make a difference in moments that matter most. That night on Pin Oak will stay with them forever. The sound of the flames, the screams, the desperate strength it took to rip metal from a wall while the fire closed in. By the time the final ember fades, the once cozy house on Pin Oak Street is unrecognizable. Only the blackened brick foundation remains, surrounded by the faint hiss of cooling water and the smell of scorched timber. What was a family's home hours earlier now stands as a hollow shell, walls gone, roof collapsed, smoke still curling from the rubble like breath from a sleeping giant. But amid the ruin, there is life. 2 children coughing, trembling, their faces streaked with soot wrapped in thick firefighter blankets beside the ambulance. Their eyes dart toward the remains of the house, confusion mixing with relief. A paramedic checks their vitals while another gently brushes ash from their hair. And not far away, 2 police officers stand silently in the dawn light. Officer Stevenson and Officer Moss, their uniforms soaked, hands burned, faces gray with fatigue, but eyes alive with the knowledge of what they just accomplished. They acted before hesitation could intervene, before backup arrived, before the fire could claim the front room where the children had been trapped. Their instincts turned seconds of chaos into survival. Now, the fire crews move with a practiced rhythm, spraying the last stubborn flames clinging to the back corner of the structure. Each blast of water echoes through the still morning. Hoses snake across the road like veins, pooling water at the officers' boots. The rhythmic clang of metal tools, the low murmur of radios, and the occasional crackle from the smoldering wood create a quiet soundtrack to what's left behind. As dawn slowly breaks over Beaumont, the night's orange glow gives way to soft gray light. The street is slick and shining, littered with debris, framed by the silhouette of fire trucks parked at odd angles. Steam rises from the scorched ground, drifting upward into the cool morning air. The smell of smoke lingers dense, acrid, unforgettable. Stevenson leans against the hood of his patrol car, head bowed, catching his breath. Moss stands nearby, his hands on his knees, staring at the ground. Neither speaks. They don't need to. The silence between them carries more weight than words could. The camera lingers on the scene, the burned house, the children, the officers standing in silence before the smoke begins to fade and the morning light swallows the last trace of the fire. Because on this street, in this hour between night and day, 2 ordinary men turned fear into courage, and in doing so, gave a family another chance to see the sunrise. Modesto, California, the 13th of February 2024. It's 12:40 a.m. The streets of West Modesto are silent, the air cool and heavy, with fog drifting low across the asphalt. Inside his cruiser, Officer Clayton Keener of the Modesto Police Department patrols near the intersection of Paradise Road and South Martin Luther King Drive, a stretch known for late-night traffic violations and occasional narcotics activity. His headlights catch the faint shine of a silver sedan that rolls past a stop sign before coasting into the next lane. A minor violation, but protocol is protocol. Keener flips on his emergency lights. The red and blue reflections ripple against shop windows and fences as the sedan slows and pulls to the curb. He radios dispatch, traffic stop, Paradise and MLK. Occupied 2 times, requesting cover. Stepping out, Keener approaches the driver's side. His flashlight beam lands first on the female driver, who grips the steering wheel tightly, anxiety visible in her eyes. "Evening, ma'am. I'm Officer Keener, Modesto PD. Do you know why I stopped you tonight?" Her voice trembles. "No, sir. Was I speeding? Just rolled through that stop back there. No big deal. Can I see your license and registration, please?" She nods and hands them over immediately. Then Keener shifts his attention to the passenger, a man sitting still, his hands resting low near his lap. "And you, sir, can I get your name?" The man looks up briefly. "Yeah, it's Marcus Reed. No ID." No hesitation, but something about the tone doesn't feel right. Keener thanks them and returns to his cruiser, entering both names into his onboard computer. Seconds later, the results pop up. The driver valid license, clean record. The passenger's name, Marcus Reed, comes back linked to searchable probation for narcotics. But the physical description is off. Different height, different date of birth. It's not him. The passenger lied about his identity. Keener exhales slowly. He keys his mic again. "Dispatch. Possible false ID on passenger. Requesting a second unit." Minutes later, headlights appear down the street. Officer Rafael Campos arrives as backup. Keener briefs him quickly. "Driver's clean. Passenger gave a fake name. Keep an eye on him while I verify." Campos nods and positions himself by the front passenger door, maintaining line of sight through the window. The night air hums with quiet tension. Keener asks the driver to step out of the car. She obeys, nervous and confused, stepping into the glow of the patrol lights. "Ma'am, I need to confirm something about your passenger," Keener says calmly. "What's his name?" She hesitates, looking toward the car. "That's Mark Koch. He didn't tell you that?" Keener's eyes narrow slightly. He nods, his suspicions confirmed. He radios again, discreetly. Passenger identified as Mark Koch Jr., 41 years old. Standby for records. A pause. Then dispatch replies, "Copy that. Subject has an active warrant for domestic violence." At the car, Officer Campos watches Koch carefully. The man's posture has changed tense now, shoulders slightly hunched. His left hand rests low between his knees. "Hey, partner," Campos says. "Let me see both your hands." Koch glances up, expression flat. "They're right here." "No, both of them. Left hand too." Koch doesn't move. His right hand rises slightly, but the left remains hidden. Campos raises his voice. "Show me your hands now." Keener returns, walking up behind him. Both officers now flank the car, flashlights aimed inside. "Mark, step out of the vehicle." Keener orders. "We're not gonna ask again." For a brief moment, it looks like he might comply. Koch shifts his weight forward, his shoulders rising. Then his right hand drops fast toward his lap. Campos reacts instantly, reaching in to grab Koch's left arm, but the motion meets resistance. Koch jerks back, brandishing a handgun, the muzzle flashing toward Campos's chest. "Gun! Gun!" Campos yells. The world explodes into chaos. Both officers retreat and open fire, the night erupting in rapid, overlapping gunshots. Keener's body cam shakes violently as he moves for cover, drawing his sidearm even as he fires his taser in one desperate motion. Sparks arc, but the probes miss. Coke squeezes off one shot, the bullet striking the inside of the windshield, missing both officers by inches. More gunfire. Glass showers onto the street. The echo bounces off buildings and car hoods, followed by an eerie silence. Smoke drifts from the open car door. "He's down," Campos says, voice trembling. "Don't move in yet. Wait for a shield." Keener keeps his gun trained on the car. The faint sound of gurgled breathing can be heard inside. Both officers fall back behind their cruisers, calling it in. Shots fired. Suspect armed. Paradise and MLK need EMS and additional units. Within moments, sirens begin to converge from all directions. Backup units arrive, cruisers, SWAT medics, and tactical officers. The flashing lights turn the street into a mosaic of red, blue, and orange reflections. A ballistic shield is brought forward. Keener and Campos regroup with arriving officers. Suspects unresponsive, Campos reports. Weapon visible on the floorboard. We're moving in slow. Shield first. They approach the vehicle. The passenger window is shattered, the air thick with the smell of gunpowder. Campos peers inside. Coke is slumped against the seat, blood pooling beneath him. The Ruger 9mm pistol still lying near his leg. "Weapons secure," Keener calls out, as another officer kicks it clear and empties the magazine. Immediately, both officers transition to first aid. Campos retrieves the trauma kit from his belt while Keener applies pressure to a wound near Coke's torso. "Stay with me, Mark. Don't move, help's coming." Within minutes, paramedics arrive, taking over the scene. Coke is stabilized, loaded onto a stretcher, and rushed to Doctors Medical Center. Investigators begin their work immediately. The area is sealed, shell casings marked, and both officers escorted for post-incident statements and weapon checks. By early morning, Modesto PD issues its first press release. At approximately 12:40 a.m., officers conducted a traffic stop. During the encounter, the passenger brandished a firearm at officers, prompting a defensive use of force. The suspect sustained injuries and was transported for treatment. At the hospital, Coke undergoes emergency surgery and survives. Doctors later report he is in stable condition. For Keener and Campos, the adrenaline begins to fade, replaced by the familiar weight of reflection, the what-ifs and could-have-beens that come with every shooting. "He had the drop on us," Campos later tells investigators. "If we'd hesitated another second, one of us wouldn't be here." Meanwhile, evidence technicians confirm that Coke's firearm, the Ruger 9mm, was loaded with 1 in the chamber and 12 more in the magazine. Investigators also confirm Coke's background: a felon prohibited from possessing firearms or ammunition, with an active domestic violence warrant already outstanding. It was only after giving a false name that he realized the officers had caught on and decided to fight back. By the time Coke regains consciousness in the hospital, he's under guard, shackled to the bed, surrounded by police. Upon being medically cleared, he's booked into the Stanislaus County Jail, facing a series of serious felony charges: attempted murder of a police officer, felon in possession of a firearm, felon in possession of ammunition, use of a firearm during the commission of a felony, outstanding domestic violence warrant. At a press conference, Chief Brandon Gillespie commends his officers' composure. Both officers displayed exceptional restraint under life-threatening circumstances. Their actions were lawful, controlled, and in accordance with department policy. Both Keener and Campos are placed on standard administrative leave, pending review by the District Attorney's Office and Modesto PD's Critical Incident Response Team. Meanwhile, community response is measured. Some residents express relief that the officers survived. Others question the escalation of the stop. But Bodycam footage provides a clear sequence of events. Officers ordered Coke multiple times to show his hands. He refused. He brandished a gun first. Only then did they open fire. The evidence leaves little ambiguity. Weeks later, the DA's office formally rules the shooting justified. The suspect's actions represented an immediate and deadly threat. The officers responded appropriately and lawfully. Coke remains in custody, awaiting trial, facing decades in prison if convicted. In a recorded debrief, Officer Keener reflects quietly. "It started as a traffic stop. That's it. We weren't hunting anyone. We just needed the truth, his name. And in seconds, it turned into a shootout." For both men, the incident reinforces a harsh reality every officer knows. There is no such thing as a routine stop. Months later, both officers return to active duty. The memory of that night, though, stays vivid. The blinding muzzle flashes, the smell of gunpowder, the ringing in their ears. The Modesto Police Department later uses the footage in training sessions, reminding recruits of the unpredictability of the job and the importance of composure under fire. By year's end, the department issues commendations for valor to Officers Keener and Campos. Neither man calls himself a hero. "We just wanted to go home," Keener says, "and make sure everyone else did too." The scene at Paradise Road has long since cleared. Traffic flows again. The only trace of that night is a small patch of faded asphalt where shell casings once lay. But for the officers who stood there, that corner will always mean something different. The night a false name nearly turned fatal. As one training officer later summarized it during the debrief video, "In police work, danger doesn't announce itself. It hides in the quiet moments until it doesn't."
Knife. Stop coming towards me. Casey, taser!
Morris, Illinois, the 29th of September 2023. It's a quiet Friday afternoon in Grundy County when dispatchers at the Morris Police Department receive a call from local mental health counselors. Their tone is urgent. They explain that their client, 40-year-old Olivia Schwab, has phoned them in distress, threatening to hurt herself with a knife. The counselors know her well. They've been helping Olivia transition from a residential treatment program back into independent living. Now, hearing the despair in her voice, they call 911. "She says she's holding a knife," one counselor tells dispatch. "She's alone in her apartment, and she's not safe." 2 patrol units are dispatched immediately to the first-floor apartment complex on the south side of Morris. The radio traffic is calm but clipped. Copy that. 10 to 33 mental health call. Possible suicidal subject, armed with a knife. The sun sits low, washing the brick buildings in amber light. Residents stand on balconies, curious but cautious, as the police cruisers pull up near the small parking lot. Officers Nick Pampanella and Casey Price step out, body cams rolling. They move slowly toward the apartment doorway. Inside, Olivia Schwab is on her cell phone, still connected with her counselors. In her right hand, the phone. In her left, a knife pointed downward toward the floor. Her voice is quiet, tired. "I'm okay. I just want to talk." She isn't yelling. She isn't threatening anyone. She appears lost, trapped between panic and exhaustion. The officers announce their presence. "Olivia, it's the Morris police. We're here to make sure you're okay. Can you put the knife down for us?" Olivia glances toward them, then looks away, still listening to the voice on her phone. Her counselor can be faintly heard through the speaker, urging her to stay calm. Pampanella keeps his distance while Officer Price positions herself nearby with her taser still holstered. Seconds tick by. Olivia steps forward slow, deliberate, the knife still pointed down, not raised. She appears to be walking out, not lunging. The atmosphere is tense but not chaotic. Then Pampanella turns slightly toward his partner and says, "Use the taser." Price hesitates. She doesn't raise it, doesn't aim, perhaps gauging the short distance. The woman's slow pace, the calm tone, and then, in the space of 2 seconds, everything changes. Olivia continues walking past the threshold, knife still downward, her phone still in her hand. The body cam captures the quiet moment, no shouting, no aggressive move. But
Olivia,
Pampanella's voice
stop!
cuts sharply through the stillness. "Taser! Taser!" Before Price can react, Pampanella draws his service pistol. 3
Stop it, you're gonna
shots
get
ring
shot!
out in rapid succession. The sharp cracks echo across the small parking lot, startling neighbors from their doorways. One bullet strikes Olivia in the torso, another tears through her shoulder, and the third fatal round hits just above her left eye. She falls backward onto the pavement, her phone clattering beside her. The knife slips from her fingers, landing harmlessly near the curb. For a second, no one moves. The ringing echo of gunfire fades into silence. Then Pampanella breathes heavily into his radio. "Shots fired. Suspect down. Need medical at my location." Officer Price steps forward, shock etched across her face. She never drew her taser. The bright yellow device still sits clipped to her belt. Together, the officers approach cautiously, weapons still drawn. They check for movement. None. Pampanella lowers his firearm. "She's down," he says quietly. They roll her onto her back and begin to handcuff her. Standard procedure even after a shooting. Neighbors record the scene through blinds and windows as the officers secure her wrists, then immediately check for a pulse. "No pulse," Price says softly. Dispatch confirms an ambulance is en route. Within minutes, paramedics arrive with stretchers and trauma kits. The medics kneel beside Olivia, cutting away part of her shirt to assess the wounds. CPR begins. The rhythmic sound of chest compressions fills the air, broken by the hiss of oxygen. But the effort is short-lived. After several minutes, one paramedic shakes his head. They cover her with a white sheet. 40-year-old Olivia Schwab, a mother, a patient trying to rebuild her life, is pronounced dead at the scene. Her body lies still near the front walkway of her small Morris apartment, framed by the faint flicker of police lights and the slow rhythm of rain beginning to fall. The drizzle darkens the concrete, creating faint ripples in the puddles that form around the evidence markers. Drops fall onto her folded hands, slide down the edge of her jacket, and mix with the blood that trails toward the gutter. Officers step back quietly as paramedics pull a white sheet over her body. The scene, once filled with shouting and urgency, falls into subdued silence, the kind of quiet that follows irreversible moments. Behind the tape, curious neighbors whisper to each other, their faces lit by phone screens as they record what remains of a tragedy that unfolded in less than 30 seconds. Detectives from the Grundy County Major Crimes Task Force arrive just after midnight. Their vehicles pull up in a slow line, headlights sweeping across the building facade. Floodlights are unpacked, illuminating every surface, the doorway, the sidewalk, the trail of water running down the curb. Yellow evidence tape flutters in the damp breeze. Technicians move deliberately, photographing shell casings where they landed 3 small brass markers against the slick pavement. Each casing is measured, bagged, and numbered. Near the threshold of the apartment, a single kitchen knife, still streaked with moisture, lies motionless. An officer kneels beside it, the beam of his flashlight reflecting off the blade before it's sealed carefully into an evidence bag. The doorway remains ajar. Inside, the space feels interrupted, a single lamp still on, casting soft light over a half-packed moving box, a folded blanket, and a stack of documents marked Housing Assistance. A small calendar hangs crooked on the wall, the current week circled in pen. To investigators, these quiet details tell the story of a woman on the edge of change, someone trying to start again. But tonight, that story has stopped mid-sentence. By morning, news of the shooting spreads rapidly across Morris, Illinois. Within hours, headlines appear online and on local morning broadcasts. Woman shot by police after mental health call. The story strikes a nerve. For many residents, it isn't just news, it's confusion, disbelief, and grief rolled together. Neighbors gather near the taped-off lot, some leaving flowers, others asking the same haunting question: how does a welfare check end in death? The Grundy County State's Attorney's Office immediately launches a formal review. Investigators pore over the Bodycam footage, radio transmissions, and witness statements from the scene. Every word and motion is analyzed frame by frame. Weeks later, the findings are released. The shooting is ruled justifiable. Prosecutors conclude that Officer Nick Pampanella's use of deadly force was reasonable and necessary, citing the perceived threat of a weapon and uncertainty of Olivia's intentions. They determine he acted within Illinois state law. Officer Casey Price, who had been instructed to deploy a taser but did not, faces no disciplinary action. Both are placed on brief administrative leave before quietly returning to duty. The ruling, though legally sound, divides the community. Mental health advocates, local clergy, and residents attend public forums, questioning the speed of the officer's response. How, one woman asks during a council meeting, does a mother in crisis get 3 bullets instead of a counselor? The question hangs in the air with no clear answer. Meanwhile, Olivia's family grieves privately. Her teenage children, reeling from shock, avoid the news coverage while relatives prepare a small memorial service. Soon after, her family files a federal wrongful death and civil rights lawsuit against the Morris Police Department. For Olivia's children, the lawsuit continues, a slow-moving effort that has become something larger than their own loss. It is now a call for systemic reform, a demand that no other family face the same ending. The final investigative report summarizes the case in measured bureaucratic tone. At approximately 12:32 p.m., officers encountered the subject armed with a knife. Despite verbal commands and the presence of less lethal options, one officer discharged his firearm 3 times, striking the subject. Medical aid was rendered immediately. However, the subject succumbed to her injuries. The investigation determined the officer acted within policy, but beyond the sterile phrasing, lies a far simpler truth. A woman in distress called for help and met her end in less than 2 seconds. By winter, the town of Morris settles back into quiet normalcy. The headlines fade, the police station resumes its routine, and life goes on. Yet, for those who heard the gunfire or saw the footage, the memory lingers, a reminder of how fragile the line is between protection and tragedy, and how a moment meant for help became the sound of finality.
Hey! Hey! Go, I'll go. Gentlemen, I told you!
Marion County, Florida, the 26th of October, 2024. It's just after 5:43 p.m., and the autumn sun hangs low over the open fields of SE 59th Street. The air hums with cicadas, and the faint sound of engines passes now and then down the rural road. On this quiet Saturday evening, dispatchers at the Marion County Sheriff's Office receive a call, a suspicious incident in an open field east of Ocala. The caller reports a man lying on the ground, possibly injured or intoxicated. Deputies respond. 2 patrol units make their way down the dirt road, tires kicking up dry dust as they near the coordinates. Bodycam footage shows the moment they spot him, a man in his early 40s, disheveled, shirt torn, lying flat on his back in the grass. "Sir, you all right?" one deputy calls out. The man rolls onto his side, blinking against the sunlight. His speech is slurred, his movement slow. "Name's James," he mumbles. "James Brady." The deputies approach cautiously, noting erratic behavior, dilated pupils, twitching hands. "You hurt, James? You on any medication or something tonight?" He chuckles, staring into the sky. "Yeah, something like that." One deputy radios in. "We've got a male subject, 41 years old, conscious and breathing, appears under the influence." Then, unexpectedly, Brady props himself up on his elbows and grins. "You boys better have your doors locked." The deputies glance at each other. "Why's that, James?" Brady smirks. "'Cause I like stealing cars." A nervous laugh escapes one of the deputies, unsure if it's a joke or a warning. Brady sits up fully now, restless energy coursing through him. His hands tremble as he speaks faster. "Man, y'all don't even know. I love fast cars. You leave that key in the ignition, it's mine." The deputies step back slightly, exchanging quiet words. One of them moves toward his cruiser to secure it, but it's already too late. Brady's head snaps toward the nearest patrol vehicle. Without warning, he sprints. The sudden movement catches both deputies off guard. "Hey, stop!" one yells, breaking into a run. But Brady is fast, far faster than his condition suggested. In a matter of seconds, he reaches the cruiser, yanks open the door, and dives inside. He's in the car. He's in the car. The sound of an engine roars to life. Bodycam footage shakes violently as deputies sprint toward the vehicle, shouting commands. "Out of the car, James, get out." But the tires spin hard, kicking gravel into the air. The patrol cruiser jerks forward, fishtailing before racing down the narrow rural road. A stolen sheriff's vehicle, now in flight. The radio erupts with urgent chatter. Unit 231. Vehicle theft in progress subject, driving a marked MCSO cruiser, heading eastbound SE 59th. Sirens light up across the county. Nearby units and Ocala police are notified within minutes. The fleeing vehicle barrels onto paved streets, weaving through sparse traffic. The dashcam from a following deputy captures the surreal scene, a marked police SUV leading a chase against its own department. Inside the stolen cruiser, Brady laughs wildly, leaning over the wheel. "Let's go," he shouts to himself. He speeds through intersections, narrowly missing cars, tires screaming as he makes sharp turns. Dispatch: suspect driving erratically, possible intoxicated speeds, 80 plus. A pursuing deputy reports. As the chase enters city limits, units coordinate with Ocala police for containment. An officer ahead sets up near Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue, preparing for a pit maneuver if the opportunity arises. Meanwhile, Brady's stolen vehicle swerves dangerously close to pedestrians near a gas station. "He's gonna kill somebody," a deputy yells. Back inside the vehicle, Brady's adrenaline surges. His hands grip the wheel tight. The radio inside the cruiser crackles with dispatcher voices calling his own pursuit in real time. "This is Sheriff's Office. Stop the vehicle immediately." He laughs again, turning the siren on for himself. The eerie sound echoes across the streets, a fugitive pretending to be law enforcement. The chase continues for several tense minutes through downtown Ocala, a blur of flashing red and blue lights reflecting off glass storefronts, tires screeching as sirens wail down empty evening streets. The stolen patrol cruiser swerves erratically between lanes, fishtailing around corners and clipping the edge of a median. Pedestrians freeze on the sidewalks, watching in disbelief as law enforcement vehicles close in from both sides. Inside the lead unit, radio chatter fills the cabin, voices overlapping, urgent and controlled. "We have clearance for pit," the supervisor radios, his tone steady but tight. Deputies exchange brief glances. They've trained for this moment hundreds of times, but training can never match the real weight of a decision made at 80 miles per hour. The lead unit edges closer to James Brady's rear bumper, aligning perfectly for the maneuver. Traffic ahead has thinned. The timing is right. The deputy takes a breath. At approximately 6 p.m., a precision immobilization technique, pit maneuver, is executed near the intersection of Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue and Silver Springs Boulevard. Metal meets metal. The cruiser jolts sideways. Tires scream against the asphalt as the stolen vehicle spins once, twice, before slamming violently into the curb and coming to a stop. He's done. Move in. Deputies flood from their vehicles, weapons drawn, forming a tactical arc around the stalled patrol car. Their voices cut sharply through the sirens. "Hands up, Brady." Out of the car. Now, inside, Brady's chest rises and falls rapidly. The manic laughter that filled the radio moments ago is gone, replaced by gasps and ragged breathing. He hesitates, eyes darting between the windshield and the approaching flashlights. All right," he mutters, raising his hands halfway as the door creaks open. Deputies rush in. Within seconds, Brady is pulled to the ground. He resists briefly, muscles tensing, shouting incoherently as gravel scrapes beneath them. But the fight drains quickly. Cuffs click into place. The tension breaks. Subject detained. An officer radios, his voice cutting through the static. As deputies secure the scene, one begins a quick search of the stolen cruiser. He opens the rear door and freezes. Inside the cabin, wedged between the front seats, is a rifle loaded. Safety off, within reach. The weapon is immediately removed and cleared, its cold steel glinting beneath the patrol car's dome light. "We're lucky he didn't reach that," one deputy mutters, shaking his head. Meanwhile, Brady sits against the rear bumper, breathing heavily, sweat streaking down his temple. His hands tremble slightly as medics arrive to check for injuries. When asked if he's under the influence, he admits it almost casually. "Yeah, I got high. Just needed to feel alive," he says with a faint smirk. The deputies exchange weary looks, a mix of frustration, disbelief, and relief. No civilians hurt, no officers injured, no shots fired. For all its chaos, the chase has ended without tragedy. But the facts are sobering. A stolen patrol vehicle, a loaded rifle, and a drug-impaired suspect. A volatile combination that could have gone a dozen different ways. At the curb, the ranking sergeant delivers a brief debrief, voice steady and professional. "Good work containing it. Let's get him to booking and write this up." As tow trucks arrive to recover the battered patrol car, the adrenaline begins to fade. Deputies wipe grime from their hands and holster their weapons. The orange streaks of sunset have vanished, replaced by deepening blue-black dusk. The flashing emergency lights cast long shadows across the wet pavement, flickering over the twisted bumper of the recovered cruiser. The chase is over, but its echoes will carry long after the last radio call ends. By evening, 41-year-old James Brady is booked into the Marion County Jail. Under the harsh fluorescent lights of intake, his demeanor has changed, calmer now, detached, as if none of it were real. His booking sheet fills nearly a full page. The image fades to black. What remains is not spectacle, but proof that instinct, control, and training can turn chaos into survival, and that sometimes the greatest victories in policing are the ones no one hears about.